So here we are with the June 2018 paper. It's foundation paper 1, so it's non-calculator. I'm going to give you some hint videos so as you can look at the questions that you've got wrong and you can try and improve your answers for those questions. So you can really, it's for you to see with a little bit of extra revision, could you get the next grade up? Could you get another 2 grades? Help you build some confidence and to see where you went wrong. Okay, so question 1. Work out 1/2 multiplied by 5. So we want 5 halves here. Now, if you're not sure of the answer, if you can't add up 5 halves, you could draw some diagrams to help. So if we looked at 1/1, so here's a bar to represent 1/1. Well, how many halves are there in 1/1? Well, there's 2 halves. So there's 1/2, there's another half. So what if we drew another whole one? So we've got another 2 halves here. So there we go. So 2 whole ones includes 1, 2, 3, 4 halves. We've got to have 5 halves. So from that, you might want to draw yourself another whole one and shade in what you need, but you can try and figure out the answer from that. Question 2. Circle a number that is 5 less than -2. So when you're adding and subtracting with negatives, think about temperature. Well, here's 0. We want 5 less than -2. So we're starting here at -2. We've got to have 5 less than that. So if you think about temperature, -2 is already cold. If you go 5 less than that, think about if it's going to get warmer or colder. And then you've got to decide, is it going to get, what's going to happen if you go to the right? Is that warmer or colder? What's going to happen on the left? Is that warmer or colder? And you can think it through from there. Now, question 3. The most common incorrect answer here was 6a squared. That's what most people came up with, and that's the wrong answer. Just remember that you're multiplying. What I was pleased with, that the reason people picked that answer was that they'd recognise the difficult bit. They'd recognise that a multiplied by a is a squared. If you multiply a by itself, you get a squared. People got that bit. So now think about what the correct answer is, because 6a squared wasn't the right one. Question 4. Which shape is similar to shape X? Well, if it's a similar shape, it's been enlarged. Now, enlargements can mean the shape gets bigger, or it can mean that it gets smaller. But all parts of the shape have to enlarge by the same scale factor. So it might be that they'll get twice as big or 1.5 times as big. They might get half as big because they could shrink, but that has to happen to all of the lengths. So for example, A wouldn't be a similar shape because the arrowheads seem to have stayed the same size, but these have got much longer. This bit doesn't seem to have changed either. So these have been enlarged here, but the other parts haven't. Similarly with B, this has got bigger here, this has got bigger, and that's got wider too, but these lengths, this length here and down here, these don't seem to have changed. The arrowheads are also bigger as well, but the whole shape hasn't got bigger, so it's not B either. So have a look at C and D and see which one you think it is where the whole shape has been enlarged by a similar scale factor. Question 5, work out 20% of 14,000. So if you want to work out 20%, your first mark, notice there's 2 marks here, would come from working out 10%. So 10% of 14,000. So how do you find 10%? Well, you divide by 10 to find 10%. So that's going to give us 1,400. We don't want 10% though, that's got as our first mark, but our second mark will be for finding 20%. So think about what you need to do to this answer to find 20%. Right, 0.85 as a fraction, its simplest form. Now the key to this is knowing your place value. If we have our decimal point, to the left of the decimal point are the units, or the ones. To the right we have tenths, and then we have hundredths, and then if we're going further, we'll have thousandths and 10,000ths and so on. So our number here, 0.85. So we've got 5 hundredths. And if we look here, we've got 85 hundredths. So how do you write 85 hundredths as a fraction? Because we're asked for it as a fraction. And then you need to write it in its simplest form. So writing 85 hundredths as a fraction first, and then simplify it. Question 6b, write 5/8 as a decimal. Now when we're converting to decimals, it can be easy if we can change the denominator to either 10 or 100 or 1,000. And we can't here, because we can't multiply 8 by something easily and get an answer of 10 or 100 or 1,000, which means we have to go to the division method. The line in a fraction, we've got 5/8. The line simply means divide. So we've got to do 5 divided by 8. And we can do that using our standard bus stop method. So we've got 5 under the bus stop is being divided by 8. Now the problem we'll hit very quickly here is that there's nowhere to carry our remainders to. And we can get around that because 5 is exactly the same as 5.0. That's because we've got 5 units, that's 5, and no tenths. So it's still just 5. We can put another 0 on. That's 5 units, 0 tenths, and 0 hundredths. That's still just 5. So we can put some zeros on here. If we put on our decimal point, we can put on some zeros, and we could keep on going as long as we need. Okay, so now we can do our division. How many 8s can we fit into 5? Well, there's 0. So that means that we've got to carry our 5 over. Let's enlarge this a bit. So how many 8s now fit into 50? Well, we can get 6 8s into 50. 6 8s is 48. So there's 6. And carry our 2. So now you do how many 8s in 20 and carry on any remainders and so on. And don't forget, we need our decimal point in here because it's here in our sum.